The sun hadn't even burned off the morning haze when James Ellison's tire exploded on I-75 South. The sound was sharp and sudden. He swerved slightly, steadying the wheel like a pro. No panic, just a sigh. He pulled over just past the construction cones. Looked like a nail must have done the damage. "Of course," he muttered, stepping out of his Mercedes, eyes narrowing at the glint of metal poking through the rubber. James opened the back door and pulled out a duffel bag. Inside, a clean pair of jeans, a plain t-shirt and work boots. Not his usual look. Not for today. But it was either that or get tire grease all over a $3,000 tailored suit. He stripped out of the navy blazer and dress shirt with precision, folded them neatly, and slid them back into the garment bag hanging in the back seat. He didn't look like a CEO now. He looked like a regular guy changing a tire. But James Ellison wasn't regular. This wasn't just another Monday. This was his first day as the owner and CEO of SouthTech Solutions, the 7th company he'd acquired in the last 5 years. He'd closed the deal just last week. Nobody at HQ had met him yet. They just knew the firm had been bought out. After tightening the last lug nut, he checked his watch, 9:27 a.m. He was late. No time to change back. He jumped in the car and headed toward the company's downtown Atlanta office. 20 minutes later, he stepped through the glass doors of the high-rise building, wearing faded jeans, a slightly dusty white tee, and a calm look that didn't match his attire. The security guard gave him a once-over and frowned. "Janitorial crews gotta come in through the back," he said, gesturing toward the alley with a clipboard. "I'm here to see someone," James replied, unfazed. The guard rolled his eyes. "Who?" "The facilities manager." Before James could answer, a voice from behind chimed in. It was a young white man in a slim gray suit, sipping an iced coffee like it was part of his personality. "It's fine, Marty," he said to the guard. "Just send him to the service entrance. He's probably here to fix the bathrooms or something." Then he turned to James with a smirk. "You shouldn't be up here, man. This is corporate." James stared at him. The man chuckled and added, "Get out of here, janitor." James gave a small smile. "Oh, don't worry," he said. "I'll be right where I belong soon enough." James didn't argue. He simply nodded once and walked over to the front desk. The receptionist barely looked up from her computer. "Can I help you?" she asked, chewing gum like she was bored of life. "I'm here to speak with the office manager. Name's James Ellison." She gave him a look, not surprised, just dismissive. "And what department are you applying to?" she asked, already reaching for a clipboard labeled facilities onboarding. Before James could respond, the young man in the suit reappeared. "Lisa, don't waste your time. He's not corporate. Just have him wait by the break room till the janitor supervisor shows." James tilted his head. "You don't even know who I am." The guy smirked. "I don't need to. I can see who you are." That one stung more than it should have. James said nothing. He just walked toward the break room like they told him. Calm, controlled, like a man used to playing the long game. As he passed a row of cubicles, 2 younger employees whispered behind coffee mugs. "New janitor? Must be. Did you see his shoes?" James sat alone in the break room, sipping water from a paper cup. He could hear them laughing just outside the door. Whole companies getting bought out. Bet the new owner lays off half the support staff anyway. "They said he's black too," one voice added, half laughing. James' grip on the cup tightened, but just for a second. He'd heard this song before. In all 8 companies he owned, this was how it started. Assumptions, disrespect, thin smiles, coded language. But he never let it rattle him, because he already knew the punchline. 10 minutes passed. The receptionist popped her head in. "Hey, James? You're still here?" James stood up, still calm. "I am." "Okay," she said, confused. "I mean, the janitorial interviews are usually handled by maintenance, and they're not in today. So, maybe come back Thursday?" James didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled out his phone and tapped the screen. The time read 10:03 a.m. "Actually," he said, walking past her, "I've got a meeting upstairs." "You can't," she started. But James was already pressing the elevator button. From across the lobby, the young man in the gray suit, Bradley, called out, "Sir, this elevator's for executive access only." The doors slid open. James stepped inside and turned to face him. "That's exactly where I'm headed," he said with a nod. As the doors closed, Bradley's confusion turned to irritation. What the hell is he doing? He looked at Lisa. "Find out what room that guy goes into. I want him off the property before lunchtime." Lisa bit her lip. I think he said his name was James Ellison." Bradley froze. The name hit him like a slap. James Ellison, the new owner, the CEO. The executive conference room buzzed with quiet chatter. Directors and managers lined the long glass table, murmuring about restructuring rumors and the mysterious new owner they hadn't met yet. At exactly 10:15 a.m., the door opened, and in walked James, still in jeans, still in that dusty white t-shirt, calm, unbothered. Every head turned. The room fell silent. Bradley, now seated near the front, blinked like he'd seen a ghost. His jaw dropped, coffee cup trembling slightly in his hand. James didn't flinch. He walked to the head of the table and placed a sleek leather folder down in front of the empty CEO seat. Then, with deliberate ease, he reached into his bag, pulled out his folded blazer, and slid it on over his t-shirt. No tie, no fanfare, just presence. The regional director, Mr. Kessler, was the first to recover. He stood quickly, forcing a smile. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, clearing his throat, "please welcome Mr. James Ellison, your new CEO and majority owner of South Tech Solutions." Gasps, audible gasps. James gave a small nod. "Thanks, Kessler," he said, then turned to face the room. Some eyes dropped to the table. Others stared, wide with disbelief. He scanned each face, calmly, until his eyes landed on Bradley, who now looked like he might melt through the floor. "You," James said, pointing to him. "Stand up." Bradley stood slowly. "Sir, I didn't realize." "You didn't ask," James interrupted. "You looked at a black man in a t-shirt and jeans and decided who I was." James took a breath, then stepped out from behind the table. He wasn't angry. He was focused. "Let me tell you what I saw this morning. I saw a front desk that sized me up and dismissed me. I saw an employee," he nodded toward Bradley, "who mocked a stranger because of what he assumed about his job. I heard whispers about what a diversity hire might look like, and I watched a culture of entitlement masquerade as professionalism." Bradley opened his mouth, but James raised a hand. "Save it." He turned to the rest of the room. "I didn't build my companies off guesses. I didn't come from wealth. I came from grit, from working 2 jobs while getting an engineering degree, from being told I didn't fit the part too many times to count." He stepped closer to the table. "I bought this company not just because it was undervalued, but because I believe in potential. But what I saw in this lobby was a cancer. A culture where people are judged by what they wear, not what they know. Where respect is conditional." He let the silence hang. "I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to build a legacy. And legacy starts with who we are when we think nobody's watching." James turned back to Bradley. "You're done here." Bradley's face went pale. "Wait, sir, please. You disrespected the owner of this company on his first day," James said firmly. "That tells me everything I need to know about how you treat people when no one's watching." Security stepped in from the hallway. "Escort Mr. Bradley off the premises. Effective immediately." Bradley was too stunned to resist. As he was led away, the entire room sat in silent awe. James walked back to the head of the table, buttoned his blazer, and sat down. "Now," he said, glancing at the agenda, "let's talk about rebuilding this place, starting from the inside out." The meeting ran long. James didn't rush it. Every department head was asked tough questions about employee satisfaction, community engagement, diversity policies, and hiring practices. Some answered with honesty. Others fumbled. But one thing was clear: things were going to change. By lunch, James had met with HR privately. Anyone who treats employees or guests with prejudice, consciously or not, is a liability to our mission, he told them plainly. Start reviewing staff behavior logs and open-door complaints. No favoritism. No cover-ups. Back in the main lobby, Lisa, the receptionist, stood nervously at her desk. She hadn't said much since James walked past her in the elevator. But now, as he passed again, she stood up. "Mr. Ellison?" she said hesitantly. James stopped. I just wanted to say I'm sorry," she said. "I made an assumption earlier and James held up a hand gently. "I'm not looking for an apology," he said. "But I hope you'll think twice next time about how you see people and how fast you box them in." Lisa nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. I will." James gave a small smile. "Good, because this company's about to look a lot different than it did yesterday." Word spread fast. By the end of the day, the break room was buzzing with new energy. Support staff, who usually kept their heads down, sat taller. People whispered that the new boss had once worked warehouse jobs, that he'd built his empire from scratch, and that he walked in wearing jeans and walked out as the most powerful man in the building. A junior accountant named Marcus approached James in the hallway. "Sir, just wanted to say thanks for what you said. It meant something." James smiled. "You're welcome," he said. "Just keep your head up and your work solid. That's all I ask." The culture had been cracked open, and James wasn't done. Over the next few weeks, mentorship programs were launched. Employees from all levels were invited to pitch ideas directly to senior leadership. Promotions started coming from within, not just from the golf course. And every time James walked the floor, dressed up or dressed down, people greeted him with real respect, because now they knew it wasn't about the clothes. It was about the man. James sat alone in his office that evening, blazer draped over the back of his chair, sleeves rolled to his elbows. The city lights blinked outside the window, but his eyes weren't on the skyline. They were on a photo on his desk, him and his grandfather, both covered in engine grease, smiling after fixing a busted carburetor in a dusty garage in Alabama. They always saw the grease, James thought, never the grit. He leaned back and spoke softly, almost to himself. "You judge a man by his shoes, you'll miss the one walking circles around you barefoot. See, the real lesson here? Respect doesn't wear a suit. It walks with quiet confidence. It shows up early, stays late, and doesn't need to announce who it is." James didn't fire Bradley because he was offended. He fired him because he was the symptom of a deeper problem, an arrogance that rots from the inside. And James? He wasn't building a company. He was building a culture, one where no one gets left behind for showing up in jeans or being born in the wrong skin. So the next time you see someone and think you already know who they are, you might want to check again. They just might own the place.